Hello friends, how's it going today? If you haven't noticed, have a ring light now, so I hope that helps. I will be playing around with it probably in the different settings to see what fits me best. And I'm just really excited because this means that my videos will probably be a little bit better quality as far as lighting goes. I've always struggled with that because I want my bookshelves to be right here. Don't have good lighting over here like I always have, like this window over here. Today starts the filming of my end of the year wrap up videos. So the first video I want to do for you guys today is 5 worst or 5 most disappointing books of 2020. So these are the books that I thought were going to be good, or I didn't know what to expect and then they just let me down, or they were just terrible and I just think you guys need to hear about them. I don't do this to bash on any authors or anyone who works in books. I just think that it's really interesting to see books that everyone loves and hates at the end of the year, and that's why I'm doing it. So, don't take it personal. This is for fun. This isn't to do any bad stuff. So let's just get into it. I only have 5 this year, which is pretty good. That lets you know that I had a good reading year. And also, I don't really have physical copies of most of these books either, so I'm just going to pop up a picture right here whenever I talk about them because I've probably already sold them or unhauled them in some way. I'm going to start from the bottom of the list, so the ones that I hated the least, and then work my way up. So number 5 is The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. I do still own this. It's right there. This book, I think I gave it 3 stars, but honestly, I kind of want to go back and give it 2.5. I had heard so many good things about it and I was really looking forward to it, and I think that there were a lot of good things going on in it. It's a story about a girl who lives in a coastal small town where everyone knows everyone, and there are a few townspeople who have kind of little magical abilities, or it's said that they might have magical abilities. Like there's one woman who, she bakes cakes that help you forget about things, or she bakes cakes that does this, that, and the other. Our main character's mother, she can brew tea and she does something. I just can't remember what it is, but there's some magicalness going on in this world, so it's not 100% realistic. The atmosphere is really what does this book for you. It's really good, I will give it that. It's very foggy, like misty, mystical, spooky, dark, cloudy atmosphere, that kind of thing. Our main character is just a teenage girl who goes to a party, and at this party she is explaining to this new person who showed up what's the town tradition. Apparently have these 3 witches, and you don't know if it's real or not, who come out of the ocean. I think it's every year, something like that, and they kidnap multiple men and just drown them and kill them and make them kill themselves in different ways, and that make them go into the ocean so they can take them for themselves, because the town had killed these 3 witches or whatever. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, I probably already have. I don't know, I felt like they had so much to work with and I just wasn't feeling it. It just didn't grab me at all. I think the only thing that did grab me was the story with our incomer to the town, his little backstory with his brother and the love interest part. That was interesting to me. Oddly enough, I thought I would more enjoy the murderous part of the story, but it just didn't grab me. It felt like a rip-off Hocus Pocus, but I don't know. I know a lot of people love this book. It's some people's favorite book, but it wasn't for me. Yeah, 2-3 stars for that one. Sorry. The next book I'm going to talk about is This One Summer. This is I think a youth, a middle school maybe, graphic novel that I borrowed from the library. I will say this has won awards. This is a well-known, well-renowned graphic novel comic. Beautifully illustrated. I was very impressed with the art. It's very cute, very monotone, purpley, white, those colors. Very simple but beautiful. And I like a lot of the story beats. I don't think that it is terrible. I just think that what it was saying was not good for kids, because this is written for kids. If this was written for adults, it's not as bad, because adults can, they can understand what it's trying to say. But I feel like if a kid read this, in my opinion, they might not understand what it's trying to tell them, because these kids are starting to grow up and they're starting to go through puberty, these 2 girls. One of them is shorter and a little chunky, and the other one is taller and skinny. And the taller, skinny friend, who we're mainly following throughout the story, she's kind of a butt. to her best friend. I don't understand why she was so mean to this girl. I understand that kids can be mean sometimes, especially when they're going through those hormonal changes or those seasonal changes or whatever. Kids are kids. Throughout the whole story, she was just hateful to this girl that she was looking forward to hanging out with all summer. And this girl is just like hurt and doesn't understand why her friend's being mean to her, but she's still being really nice to her and treating her like a friend like she's supposed to. So it's like skinny girl being mean to fat girl. And I just didn't appreciate that. I thought that there was no repercussions for it. She never really made her apologize. She never really said I'm sorry or anything. Like, you know, at the same time, the skinny girl, I forget their name, sorry, I'm just going to call them skinny girl, fat girl, because that's the easiest way. Fat is not derogatory here, so yeah. Skinny girl is going through a lot of stuff at home. Understandable, she's stressed. That does not mean that you can talk badly to your friends and then never apologize. I feel like your friend, either you need to tell them what's going on so they understand your situation, or you need to apologize to them for acting the way that you were acting. And that never happened, so I feel like that's just not a good message for kids. The mom and dad were fighting, and like there was a lot of family drama that just seemed really stressful to me. And I just don't feel like a kid would want to read about that. And it's not that kids don't need hard-hitting topics. Of course they do, in a certain sense. But I don't think this was done well. I really don't. I don't think that I would want my kid to read this if I ever had a kid, which eventually I hope to, but you know how that is. I don't feel like I'd want them to read this. I don't feel like it had good messages. Oh, and there was a scene in this with some teenagers, like older kids, who were talking about sleeping around and going to parties and drinking and stuff and possibly doing drugs, I'm not sure. And she was, the skinny girl was like in awe of these teenagers and like wanted to be like them. And then she started calling these other girls sluts because she heard the big girls use them. Someone told her not to use that word, but there was no real like stop saying slut and stop slut shaming. Like, I don't know, it was just weird. Like someone got pregnant. It was like a lot of trigger warnings for, you know, all random stuff in this kid's book. And it just didn't feel good. Like it didn't feel like something I would recommend to anybody, but it was good though. Like that's the thing, is like, as an adult, I can appreciate the merit that this story holds and think that, you know, a lot of people would really enjoy this and it is really well done and well written, but I don't know who it's for. Like, I cannot tell you who this is actually for. I wouldn't want a kid to read this, and I don't know if I'd want a teenager to read this because it's toxic. So I think I gave it 3 because I was so confused, but it could go up and down, who knows? Okay, number 3, the third book that I was disappointed in / hated was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. As you guys know, earlier this year, I read for the first time Gone Girl and absolutely loved it. It was fantastical. It's definitely one of my favorite books now. But I also wanted to read some other work by Gillian Flynn, and I hated it. It was Sharp Objects, and I'd heard so many people sing this book's praises. It even has like is it a Netflix show or a Hulu show? There's a show on some program network that is about this book, and it might be better than the book, because it just didn't hit for me. It's about a girl she's a grown woman and she moves to some big town like Chicago or something, and she's a reporter, and she moved from this small town. Well, her reporter lead person tells her, hey, there's been some disappearances and murders of kids. We want you to go back to your hometown where this is happening and investigate it because you have some leeway with the locals and we want you to get the scoop. And I'm like, okay, first of all, why would this town, who has nothing to do with this small town, care about the drama there? Like, that didn't make sense to me at all. Like, there was I didn't even think there was like a wrap up to that connection. Like, I think that was just a thing that you just had to accept, which was weird for me. She goes to this town and nobody wants to talk to her. They don't want to tell her anything. They say it's none of her business, which it really isn't, especially for the paper she works for. I don't know. Like, I think in the show it's probably better because you can see the nuances in the way that people body language and the way they act and the way they look at you, and just their accent and personality probably helps build the character there, because I felt like the characters were lacking greatly in this. Our main character, the only thing I can tell you is that she cut herself a lot. So definitely trigger warnings for that. This is not a book for people who struggle with self-harm at all. There is a lot of that. There is also Munchausen and forms of that. I don't want to spoil the story for you, but there is, Munchausen by proxy, those kinds of things involved. Murder, teeth pulling, cutting, gross, awful things, but normally I can handle that. It just wasn't well done. I was bored. I was like trying to get through this book so that I could finish it just to see if the ending was good. And it wasn't that great. Like, I wasn't impressed with the ending, and it just didn't do anything for me, and kind of predictable, but I don't know. I guess I just didn't enjoy the rich aspect of the family that we're following. Like, the mom and the dad and the daughter, super rich, and the teenage girls were like, I think 13 or something, and they were like acting like 22-year-olds, and I just found that really strange, and I feel like it didn't fit. And I think that was the point of the story, was to tell you that this isn't normal, but it just felt unrealistic. I don't think it was well done, in my opinion. So this one didn't hit for me. I know it hit for a lot of people. Like, Paperback Dreams loves this, and that's one of the reasons why I picked it up, because I really respect a lot of her opinions when it comes to horror and thrillers. But it just didn't hit for me, and I can't recommend it to anyone unless you just, I guess you love the show and you want to read it. Definitely not one I'm keeping forever, probably. It's just not good. Number 2 on the list is Boy in the Box. This is sitting right here, and it is by Mark E. Fitch. It's one I read this year pretty early on, I think. It's from Red Flame Tree Press. This is a smaller company that I found on my own, and they have been nice enough to send me ARCs. And I've kind of liked most of the books I've read from them. It's very odd, the selection that I've gotten. Like, I either love them or I hate them, and then there's been a couple that were in between, but it's been all over the place. I guess that's good, because then you have a good variety, but it's very strange to me, kinds of stories that they carry. I do recommend them, though. They've been very kind to me if you want to check them out. But this story in particular is about, if I can remember it properly, forgive me. It is a story about this group of, I think, 3 men who one day years ago, like in the past, they went on a hunting trip in the middle of the woods somewhere, and they rented a cabin, and they were hunting, I guess because, men do that sometimes. People do that, whatever. And they accidentally killed a boy. It's like not a spoiler. And they buried him in a box in the woods. And I can't remember a lot of details when it comes to that, but I know that they were trying to cover it up, and it's ruined their lives. Like, you go back to the present, someone's killed themselves. People are miserable. They can't get over this, and it's just been following them their entire life. And it's destroying their marriages, their relationships, their friendships, their bodies. Yeah, it just is very severe, like trigger warnings for sure in this one for all kinds of abuses of substances. They go back to the woods to dig up the boy. I guess they're going to move it because, there's going to be land development or something like that. There's some reason they have to go dig him up. They're going to move him or something, and it's just them running into like some kind of supernatural force. They don't really explain much of it until the very, very, very end. And I do like the very ending, but I wish it had been more of the book. I think that the very ending monster thing, creature, person, force was awesome. I loved that last chapter. It was fantastically done. But I want more of that. Like, it was so much better than the book. The book was like they're running from wind and nothing's happening. Like, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't there, it was almost there. It was so close. And in my number 1 worst book of the year, most disappointing book, is one that I kind of feel bad because a lot of people love this on my Goodreads. All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. I tried it on audiobook because I had Libby. I don't like the way it was written, first of all. I think that the whole backwards story plot is terrible. I think it could work sometimes, maybe with certain things, but it didn't work for me in this. I think that it was made very, very confusing, especially with audiobook, because I was trying to pay attention to what time of day it was happening, and then doing the math in my head, which I'm very bad at math if you don't know that already. And then I had to go get my physical copy because I did have one from the thrift store that I picked up to follow along, and I was just very confused throughout the whole story. And I didn't like the characters. I just didn't like the plot, the setting. None of it was good to me. I didn't care about the ending, like the big twist. It was very predictable to me, and I just didn't like anything about it. I think that it was just not good. I think I gave it 2 or 1 star. If I gave it 2 stars, I'm sure I explained why I gave it those 2 stars in my Goodreads review. If you want to go check that out, I have it linked in the description. But I seriously can't remember why I like this. Like, it just wasn't good at all. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Let me know what books disappointed you the most this year, or if you've read any of the books that I did not like, and tell me why you liked them or why you didn't like them, because I would like to hear other people's opinions. I haven't really read a lot of reviews on these books because I just haven't I just haven't. I didn't care about them and I just got rid of them in my mind. But let me know what you think. I want to know what your most disappointing read was in 2020 because I've heard some doozies on some other videos. But I will see you guys in the next video. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.